Okay.
Okay, so the first order of business is the designation of chair for the day. So I'm sitting in the middle here, so I'm assuming that people are okay with me being the chair.
So moved.
All right. Are you going to second that, Josh?
Yes, I'll second.
Okay. All right. So then can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have an agenda, and we have minutes from September 11th.
I'll motion to approve the minutes. Second.
We have minutes that are approved, and okay, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Great. So now we are on to item 5, which is public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to make public comment on anything that is not on the agenda? Or we don't have consent here, right? No. Okay. I don't see anybody. So do we have any written public comments? No. Great. Moving right along, we're on discussion, on to our discussion items. 6A, we have Peter Creek vegetation and fire fuel management update. If you stand here. Hey, Stan.
Good afternoon. So yeah, I just want to give you a brief update. We're, as we have done in past years, we're currently engaging the California Conservation Corps to do some work in the North Fork Buda Creek area. So it's really to remove dead trees, vegetation, some non-native species in the area along the upper bikeway path and along the bank. And then also somewhat in the stormwater channel to clear out some of those areas. Work actually commenced last week and then is continuing this week, and we may have another week in December that we would message as well. This is a continuation of effort that we do for fire abatement, habitat management, wildlife management in the area. As you might know, we've executed an MOU with the county, so the city maintains that entire area at this point. So we will be doing this again moving forward. To date, we haven't had any specific significant interest from the community. I think it's been pretty messaged pretty well. And we do have signage out there as well to indicate what work is going on. So it's been good from that front as well. California Aggie, my understanding is California Aggie is actually doing a small article on it as well to educate the community. So. And just moving forward, just as an FYI, we are updating our overall management plan for that area, which would include the fire abatement goals, habitat goals, wildlife goals. So the idea is over the next few years, probably going to be a little heavier work than not to get the area up to speed from a maintenance perspective. And then as we move forward each year, that would slow down just a little bit. And hopefully be a little less intrusive, and maybe sections versus the entire area. So California Conservation Corps, very good and efficient fiscally for the city and county from that perspective. We do help fund some of their equipment upkeep, but from that, otherwise, they are here at the, to assist us in keeping that area clean. So.
Thank you. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Just very briefly to add, as we move into this phase where the city is, per the agreement with the county, where the city is taking over the maintenance responsibilities for that area, and as we make efforts to inform the surrounding community about what's happening at any given time out there, if county supervisors or your staff teams are hearing or seeing any observations where we need to adjust our messaging or our methods for messaging, we're all ears about that, especially as this is a newer endeavor for us. We'll continue to hone that as we move forward. One of the areas, for example, that we did was, I think, place some signs along the pathway that it runs parallel to the watershed there, because not everyone necessarily frequents that, necessarily lives right there, that would get a notification. So we wanted to make sure that folks that utilize that path have an understanding of what's happening and why. So, but if there are observations where we could make adjustments or improvements, we're all ears and want to continue to adapt as we move forward. And then I just wanted to applaud the partnership with the California Conservation Corps. Seems to be a really, really positive one. And we'd like to continue that partnership moving forward. So appreciate all the work that's being done on this. Thanks.
Great. Are there any comments, questions?
District 4 has.
Public comment?
Yes?
Sorry. Hi, sorry, Sheila Allen, Deputy Supervisor for Benza. Sorry, he's not able to be here today. I just wanted to say thank you very much for the partnership and congratulations on your ditch. But because it does line right up with Willowbank, that's our constituents, that if there are any if we hear anything, we definitely will let you know. But if you know timing of things, that we have a community service organization that we meet quarterly, that we can give them updates, or we would happily welcome you if you wanted to talk to them. They have fairly good attendance and they talk to each other over there in Willowbank, so that might be another good way to enhance the communication. And thank you to Elisa Sabatini, who used to work for Yolo County, that she made that connection to the Army, to the Corps. So that I'm glad that's continued. Thanks.
Thank you for that. That was actually one of my questions, was how did we get connected with the Conservation Corps?
Yeah, they did. Previously, it was done through county contract with Elisa. And then when we were doing more of a combined effort in that area, and then so we've continued that. We have them under contract with the city now. And we actually plan to leverage that as much as possible with other channels and vegetative management within the city's sphere, which could touch on county-city edges moving forward as well. So.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And thank you, Stan. A couple quick questions. One, is the current cleanup happening there? You mentioned that there was other pieces that were going to come up prevention-wise. So with the storms that happened last year, there were a lot of large trees that fell down, eucalyptus trees, things like that are still in the ditch. Are those, is that part, that's not part of this project? Are those things that are, those are the questions I receive on that stretch, is like when's that going to get cleaned up? Is that part of the maintenance piece down the road?
There's going to be pieces of, you know, if it's dead or dying that's fallen, depending on the size, the Corps may pick it up. It depends on their equipment and their ability. Those larger ones, like the one eucalyptus in particular, that we've, you know, basically cut a path, that would be a further effort down the road. Yeah.
Got it, okay. Yeah, and then I think, piggybacking on Sheila's comments, I think if there's ways that we can reach out to the group she was speaking of, and then also to residents that are on the other side of that path of just what the next handful of months or even year looks like, there is a lot of conversation in that area around kind of what's going on there, and you're seeing some of the fires popping up in more in areas that are more dense, and I think there's just some concern. I think more information the better.
We'll definitely look to do that. Also, as I mentioned, when we update the management plan, some of that will include cycles of work that we intend. We can certainly message that information as well once we have that in place.
Thank you.
Just two quick things. Yeah, appreciate the updates. I mean, anytime we can do work with the Conservation Corps, I think is really positive. Their programs are great, and I think also we've been, you know, you mentioned this previously, a county contract now with the city, but you know they've been under contract to do some work in other parts of the county as well. I'm curious if you understand just the permit requirements around just doing this work, right? And so there are, you know, it's one thing to do sort of maintenance and trimming, and it's another thing when you're down in the creek beds, and there are definitely typically permits required from CDFW. I mean, so I'm just curious if how that process went, and because we're experiencing a little bit of challenges in other parts of the county on this exact issue, so just, yeah, I'm curious about that.
This in particular job that we're undertaking now was more of a mitigation effect. So from a permitting perspective, much easier on that alignment. As we move forward with CEQA and otherwise, once we get into more of the maintenance activity, the ongoing, then you get into CEQA, you get into some of the other permitting.
So when you say mitigation effect, you're saying if you're mitigating wildfire risk, and so if it's we'll just say categorized in that way, I mean, there's an ability to sort of do sort of more.
The permitting is less restrictive in that arena, yes.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay. Are we okay now? Okay, our next item is an update on County Road 32A.
Hi, good afternoon. Todd Rio, Yolo County Director of Public Works. I can kind of go through the project kind of from the beginning and try to go through that way, or do you want something like what's happening today?
I think just that, I mean, probably a quick overview of the,
Okay.
you know, that, I mean, I think most of us are familiar with the 32A sort of intersection and that, and just a quick overview of where things would happen, and then just, especially that latest sort of discussion with CalSTA, probably on the grant and everything, yeah.
I'll try to be as brief as I can, but I'll kind of go back to the beginning. So Union Pacific Railroad applied to close the County Road 32A 105 intersection crossing, railroad crossing, due to safety issues. And Union Pacific relented after the county and partners approached them and said, hey, please don't do that. So that is based on the county and partners proceeding with getting a safety solution and implementing something. So the city and county applied and received SACOG funding and assembled a project study report back in 2020, 2021. And that was with a group of Yolo County, City of Davis, Union Pacific, Yolo County Farm Bureau, and Bike Davis together. And in that effort, 8 alternatives were evaluated for addressing the issue, and alternative 8 was selected by that team, and the Board of Supervisors also selected it. And that was to relocate the crossing 1.5 miles to the east and to install a bridge to cross the railroad. And that would separate all the traffic modes, kind of eliminating the safety issues. And after that, the county immediately went out and hired a consultant to assist with grant funding opportunities. And we applied to 4 different programs to try and get funding toward design. And in July 2023, the project was awarded $5.2 million through the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program, the TIRCP grant, for the design and environmental phases. So that was great news. And the county immediately pushed ahead and tried to secure the grant funding and get it encumbered and start working, and assemble a request for proposals for a consultant to go ahead and do that design and environmental effort. And so we were going to hit the ground running, but the state decided to move the funding availability to the fiscal year 25-26 year. So not until July 2025. So it kind of, we hit a delay snag there. But then with the state budget uncertainty earlier this year, there were times when we heard the funding was actually going to be eliminated. And so we were tentative, kind of moving the project ahead at that point. We're like, oh, do we have anything or not? And so with that uncertainty, Yolo County applied for another grant program, the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program, which we did previously, those 4 that we did, but didn't get anything. We did it again, just thinking, well, if we're not going to get any funding at all, we got to try it another way. So we applied for design and environmental funding through that program again in this past September, just a couple months ago, for the same grant amounts, just because if we don't get any of that funding, we got to get something, and we want to keep this project moving. 2 weeks ago, Supervisor Frericks, thankfully, and Supervisor Provenza's team met with the state and received verbal confirmation that this TIRCP funding will be provided next July. And so we're actually still waiting for a letter of confirmation that kind of seals that and makes sure that that's actually going to happen. So we're going to continue to assemble a request for proposals for design and environmental, and we'll go out early next year with that effort so that we can hit the ground running in July 2025 and start designing this thing. We still have a shortfall for construction funding. We don't have any, and it's a very pricey project. As time goes on, it's in the range of $50 million. So, but having an actual design and having a project environmentally cleared, that'll give us kind of that shovel-ready status, and we think we'll be able to better compete for grant funding opportunities in the future for construction. So that's project update. Questions?
So you said that you changed the request from, for construction to elimination?
No, the program's called Railroad Crossing Elimination Program.
Okay.
It's a grant funding program, RCE. So we had applied for that. We blasted out 4 applications right away, like whatever we can get. Somebody, one of those programs was that RCE program, but we didn't get an award in that initial. Because of the uncertainty, like, are we gonna get this $5.2 million grant or not? We're like, well, if they're gonna renege on it, we wanna be able to still move this thing forward. So if there's this opportunity again, we did a kind of after the I can't remember what the term is, but after you receive your bad news, you didn't get the grant, you can meet with the funding folks and say, hey, what can we do better? So we did that, and so so with that confidence, we went back to that program again. Like, hey, if we don't get this, we'll have this in the back, just in case. And if we end up getting that funding, maybe we'll have a problem. And hey, we've got all this design funding. Can we reallocate it to construction? Maybe we'll have our first bit of construction money. We'll see how that goes.
Okay.
I can't promise anything though.
But I guess that was my question. Was
Okay.
that you can use it for the.
I'm sure there'll be some way to convince them to reallocate it to some other part of the project.
Okay.
Right-of-way acquisition, because there's a number of properties that we'll need to acquire right-of-way from in order to make that bridge and the approach roads work.
Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions. Thank you for the update.
Sure.
Is there a timeline that UP is willing to continue to wait? I mean, I know they've been eager to eliminate this crossing. Is it they're willing to just let this play out?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And then what is the kind of funding? I know a couple of years ago we were at Cap to Cap and we were lobbying in Senator Padilla's office around this exact project and having conversations. What does the kind of funding landscape over the next 5 or 6 years look like for these types of programs? Are you anticipating that still being there? And then that's a lot, obviously 50 million, right? I mean, I know this has been a priority previously, and with Capital Corridor, we're seeing lots of movement towards eliminating these types of crossings. I'm just curious to see what your thoughts are on kind of the longevity of funding for this type of project.
I'm not sure how many funding programs we're going to have to get. Maybe there'll be one that we can, and it'll just be great. It's perfectly, but having UP on our side, they're really kind of cheering us on this one. They really want this to happen. I think that's going to help us once we get there. As the design starts to move and get more finalized, and the environmental process plays out, and this project becomes an actual viable project, and people can see that, oh, you're going to solve this issue. It's going to go away. And it's the one remaining crossing, I think, in Yolo County that is at grade like this for UP. So I think if there's an opportunity to do it, we'll have support, and that's going to be very helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Just a quick comment. I think, appreciate there's a crystal ball sort of gauge.
Yeah.
I know it's I think, we'll just say California didn't do too well between 2016 and 2020 in terms of federal funds. We've done much better in the last 4 years in terms of federal project dollars. So, who knows what the next 4 years will be like. but there are definitely, in the rebounding, somewhat rebounding state, dollars. I mean, I think some of those programs will probably still be, funded, but, I think it's going to be the patchwork quilt to sort of stitch it all together to get to the grand total, I'm sure, over the next few years. So.
And I think as part of our RFP for the design team, we may put a portion in there too, a task for capital funding plan for the project and, brainstorming that and having someone actually trying to, put together a roadmap for us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I also just really appreciated your comment. I mean, I do think that having UPB supportive is very, I mean, I wish they were supportive in a wider way of ways, but, letters they've been writing are very supportive, so that's good.
Yes.
But I think also having the capital corridor be supportive too, because it's an issue for those trains. And so, I mean, it's a, multi-pronged approach in terms of agencies and support. So, yeah, it's a
Good point, Supervisor. They have come to all of our requests as well, the JPA, to support. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this? I'm not seeing anyone. So that will move us to our next item, which is Crisis Now, facilities update.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Pisaki, Director of General Services for Yolo County. Here to present an update on Crisis Now in terms of the construction timeline of the project. Just as a note, it is the Health and Human Services Agency that's going to operate the program. I do enough as it is already. But, and Nolan couldn't be here today, so I'm taking this one on. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So just a brief background of the current effort. So the original plan for Crisis Now, which is a program for those who are in behavioral health crises. It's a multi-pronged program involving a 24/7 access line, mobile crisis teams, and then a receiving center that will be open 24/7 to receive folks in crisis, help stabilize them. So this plan that we were looking at, just focusing on the receiving center, originally was to look at reusing a building of the county that formerly housed the probation administration building and functions, converting that into the receiving center. This site is across from the juvenile detention facility on the corner of East Gibson Road and County Road 102 in Woodland. As we got through design and changing it from an office building to a receiving center, it triggered a lot of renovations we hadn't anticipated, and so the project budget shortly ballooned to $2 million. And it's a building that has been around for about 20 years. It's nearing the end of some building components life. So here in General Services, we looked at what other alternatives that could fit the project need. And what we're proposing now, and Health and Human Services is supporting, and in concurrence, is to move forward with designing and constructing a new modular building on that same site. We recently did a large modular building construction on another site in the county. The project came in under budget on time, so we think this is viable for this site. And that estimate roughly is $2 million. We still have a need to do a formal cost estimate, but we feel that a new construction site would do well. If we go to the next slide, just as a reminder on that site location, this is north, facing the top of the page is north, that's East Gibson Road. The right side of the page is east, that's County Road 102. Just as a point of reference, Costco is in that northeast corner. And the building you see right there, the white roof, is the former Probation Administration Center. The red is where we're proposing to put this new modular. The former probation building is going to still be used as partly a spay and neuter clinic, is currently being converted into that, and also the temporary house, the UC Co-op extension. So it's still a functional building. We'll have a lot going on there. We do believe they are compatible uses after talking to all the partners on that site. Go to the next slide. This is the floor plan based on near 30% design. So we are proposing a 60-foot by 60-foot modular That's about 5 components. As you may recall, modulars come down the road, and it's going to be 5 trailers, if you will, put together. Again, the top of the page is facing north, left side of the page is facing west to the parking lot. So we propose entry door on the west side. They go into a lobby. The staff secure area is the northern half of this building, and then staff would greet them there. They would transition into an interview room, which is that door just to the south of the entry door. And then once they are intaked there and processed, they can enter into the client respite area, which is the whole bottom half of the building. This facility would include client restrooms, a client shower, dedicated staff workspace, laundry room, and other support spaces for this function. On the next page, just on the schedule, because I do know this city, as well as the other jurisdictions in Yolo County, are partners on this project. The schematic design, which is 30% design, and the site plan, that's the utility layout, plus furniture planning, will be complete by December 1. From there, we go into design documents, which really gets more into the internal furnishings and more precise layouts of the internal part of the building, plus the cost estimate of this construction would be completed by January 15th, thereabouts. Then we move into construction documents, that's the 95 to 100% design, and release it for bids. We anticipate completing that by April 15th. That also includes the time to go through the permitting process as well. The bidding period will be about 5 to 6 weeks, and then we award the construction contract at the board level. And so our goal is to shoot for the board meeting on June 30th or June 3rd, and then we can start construction by the end of June is our working process. Modular construction doesn't take too long in the grand scheme of things. What may take longer here is just some of the utility connections, to be honest. So I don't have an end date of construction, but we do anticipate a quick turnaround for this project. That concludes my presentation. Again, at the last slide on questions, I'm more than willing to answer any construction questions. I have limited knowledge on program questions.
So yes, Mark Bryan, Deputy County Administrator. So thank you, Ryan. Very nice to see things moving forward. One of the things that we'll be doing as we move closer to having the design documents completed is we'll be making wrapping up all the MOUs with the city partners, so we can get those in place as we go forward to the board of supervisors and have a complete package. So I know that there's been lots of discussions around those MOUs, and so we'll want to get those completed. I know that Nolan and Ryan are sensitive to that as well, but we know we have solid partners. So.
Yeah, and on that point, thank you, Mark, for the reminder on the MOU. So we currently have the MOU circulating within our staff to provide feedback back to the county team. And I know that Woodland and West Sacramento are in similar, undergoing similar steps right now. Per our city managers meeting we just had on Friday last week, we talked about that briefly with Dirk Brazil as well. So everyone's on the same page with getting that feedback on the draft MOU back to the county promptly.
Yeah, just a couple of quick things. First, thanks so much for the updates, and I'm glad to see the sort of progress that's being made. I think also, Ryan, one question with regard to the sort of utility connections. I mean, the building is already hooked up, though. I mean, we're talking about PG&E, I think, is what we're talking about here, right?
It's more about, so this is part of the Justice Campus, which has the 2 jails on it and the Sheriff Administration Building. So this campus existed in part before the city expanded out there. So it runs on its own sewer and water system. So that's really what I'm looking more for in terms of utility connections. Ideally, we should just be able to connect right to 2780 East Kitchen, that's the white building there, and JDF. It's just, it's kind of the furthest corner from our utility site, so it's a little more, we just have to make sure we have the sloping right with the pipes and all that. But it's not we don't forecast it as a barrier of any sorts. It's just a slight technical challenge, whereas another modular had more of an electrical challenge and not a water challenge. This is what we do, this is what we work through. I don't see any big hurdles here. I think now that we've identified a new site or a new construction would be better, and ideally for the same value, success really does seem in sight.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. And then the second item is just, it's on the programming side, so I'm not gonna ask you that. But just what is the date for our upcoming 2x2x2, the town and gown meeting between the city, the county, and the university? I know that.
January 3rd.
January 3rd, okay.
Third, excuse me, sorry, 30th.
30th,
30.
I'm sorry, yeah, January 30th, yeah. Well, that's, yeah, exactly. I'll just put this out there, I absolutely think we need to ask the university to help contribute financially to this program. I mean, we basically asked that last year at that meeting. We intimated, they presented the Health 34 program that they are working on, which seems fine. There are absolutely, as part of the collaboration and partnership between the city, the county, the university, on so many other fronts, this is a huge component of we're facing our sort of greater community right now. And then also, there are many students utilizing mental health services that are being provided by the county. And so and they will be utilizing this. And so just make that as a comment. So we're all on different 2x2s and all these other things, but we will all be sitting at that meeting. And so just, for the powers that be that are agendizing items, whatever, just would make that, I think the mental health suggestion was already, again, being suggested to be a topic, but I think we should all consider.
Do we have
Directly asking.
numbers? Because do we have statistics on like how many students we serve? Because I think
It's a
that
question
would
for
be-
Nolan, and the
Yeah.
answer is yes, and I don't know them exactly, but yeah, there's certainly some.
I think it would be good to collect those and to be able to present and make our point, because I think it is a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Lucas, for bringing that up. And I'm curious to know what some of your either thoughts here or offline around whether or not, I think we talked about this last year too, whether or not there's, having that agendized 100%, and if there's ways that you, me, Gloria, whoever, Sheila, after she's sworn in, are having those conversations prior to that 2x2x2, where it's agendized, and hopefully we get some, my experience with that meeting has been less of kind of a decision-making process, and it's been more of like kind of some ideas and then the need to follow up, and I'm wondering if there's people we can reach out to or commit to reaching out to as a group and set up those meetings with Nolan, with our city leadership, with your county leadership, and with elected officials, and try and just kind of get that all moving before that meeting. And I'm more than happy to be engaged and involved in those conversations. I think it'd be an important piece to bring to them prior to that meeting, and try and get some of that legwork done, if you will. So maybe we can just touch base offline and figure out this way through our own contacts of trying to get something like that set up. The only question I have, so what's under that red square now? Nothing?
So
Your
under that
original
red
proposal-
square is just open, yeah.
So the original proposal was to that white roofed building is what you were looking at?
The white building is going to be repurposed. So we have kind of this underutilized grassy area. So under that red square, yes, it's nothing except for a pathway. We may be able to fit it in between the two pathways, to be honest. And it's right next to an energy transformer that's got room to add loads. That's why PG&E, you don't see an issue there.
Thank you.
Also across the corner, there's a berm that goes across the corner that was input when the Justice Campus was being built up, so there's a bit of privacy as well to this thing.
That's great.
Yeah,
I know, I was just gonna, I just wanna thank you, Ryan, and your team. You've been, in my time here on council, with now this project, with all the work that we've worked together on Pacifico, and certainly the Walnut Park Library, you've been a great partner in this work and have continued to kind of keep everyone abreast and engaged in these conversations on something, the most expensive part usually of the projects. I really appreciate you and your team's work on these.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Thank you. So I just have a question about so it's going to be the same amount of money, right, for, if it had gone into if you had repurposed that building?
Correct.
And to repurpose that building for the animal services is it less? I guess the specifications are different.
Yes, they are different. So for two reasons why it's less. One is the animal services is going to be using the southern third of that building. whereas the co-op extension will be using that building in its original purpose for that northern 2/3. So for co-op, they're moving in this week because we're building them a new permanent home elsewhere in Woodland. Very little cost to repurpose that for co-op. For animal services, it's really a lot of floor work to convert it from carpet to LVT, which is kind of like an linoleum base, easier to clean. Some ventilation work, so it furthers the spay and neuter function. Some site work for a better pedestrian path to get to that corner. But the use hasn't really changed that much. Whereas using it for short-term stay, 23-hour or less stay, we're talking more about ventilation, we're talking about ADA access, more permanent ADA access, bunch of new plumbing to meet the needs for the bathrooms and the showers. We're doing all of our door hardware, so when you're in crisis, sometimes you may have suicidal ideations and thoughts. So all the door hardware has to be replaced, so it makes it much more challenging to go down that path. So it's just really, really different.
Sure. Okay. I was curious about that, and that really cleared that up. The other question I had was, you said the construction for the modulars is a lot quicker. I know you don't know like an exact timeline, but in sort of general.
Yeah, so I don't have the timeline of the length of construction, but it is significantly quicker. And I'll have a better sense once we have the site plan and the utilities laid out, so we know just how much utility work is needed to get there. Because that's when you get the trenching and laying the pipes and working through all that. But modular construction, like the last project we did a year ago, just blew us away in timeline and cost. It was just a couple months.
Okay.
It really was incredibly quick.
That's helpful.
This has some similar challenges, some different challenges, some more positives than the other site. It should all net itself out, but we're talking, I really do believe we are talking a couple months to less than a year, honestly. It was really fast with that last project.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So next up is the library update. We have Diana.
Every time I follow Ryan, I feel so short. Hi, I'm Diana Lopez. I'm the county librarian. So just a few updates. We received and approved final samples for interior materials such as flooring and tile for the library. At the Board of Supervisors meeting on November 5th, the board approved awarding the construction contract of the Walnut Park Library to DL Falk Construction in the amount of $14.1 million. I prepared a handout, and you can view Ryan Zucchini, you can view this presentation to the board there. Also, there's a link for the staff report with detailed information. Happy to say that Davis voters passed Measure T with a 72% vote. So super grateful for that support. Really, really grateful for all of the work that the Yes on Measure T committee did, and all the support that we've received from the city, who've been incredible partners. Next step will be for the Board of Supervisors to pass a resolution accepting the official results after they're finalized. There's a screenshot there from the Yolo County ACES website with the election results as of yesterday. And let's see, Yolo Arts continues to coordinate the public art process for us. We had 10 submissions. And 5 artists were chosen to move forward in the process to submit site-specific plans. So that's where we're at with that. And then I asked Ryan to join me so that he could provide construction updates.
Hello again. So where we are right now is we have a construction contract with DL Balls. They were selected, and with the action that the city council did yesterday, staff are working on finalizing the land transfer agreement. Once that's finalized, we will sign the construction contract. Our working date for groundbreaking is probably in January, is what we're looking at, and then we will be off to the races for construction. Staff do need to work out that we've had many fruitful discussions about maintenance agreements. You may remember in the staff report, we are extending the parking lot at Wanted Park across. Some of that is and will remain city parkland, so we're just working out. And we have agreements in principle, just not on the paper, who's maintaining that side. County, the intent is for things like that, the county is installing it and constructing it, and the city would thereafter maintain that. So yes, January is the big date. We don't have a date yet, but that is our big month, if you will, for groundbreaking. We still intend to have this completed in early 2026, that first half. In terms of construction, there'll be a few more months to get all the collections in there. Ideally, end of summer is for the actual grand opening of, or end of summer of 2026 is the actual grand opening of the facility. So again, the board heard me say it last week. It has been amazing working with city staff on this project. They've been very helpful, collaborative as we go through this, and I do especially a shout out to Diana and Jensen for all her help in coordinating on the city side.
Great, that's really quick. I'm really excited about the groundbreaking. Any questions?
Thank you. Go team, go.
Okay.
No, and just actually one quick point, Diana, you made this in your update, which is great. Yeah, 72.66% and increasing. Every new result that comes in, the numbers are going up, so percentage is going up. So grateful to the community for their strong support.
All right. I've got to take a public comment on the last item, and so if there's any public comment on the last item or this item? No? All right. So now we're on to city manager CAO updates.
Nothing from me.
A couple of very brief updates. One is with respect to election results. Of course, the indications are Measure Q, which is the city sales tax measure, is passing by a comfortable margin. Of course, Jesse Salinas will, in his office, will certify the election results sometime between the 28th and 30th day, which is the new requirement as we understand it in state law. So somewhere around that first week of December, we expect to see official certified election results in that period. Including for Davis, of course, that also includes the Davis City Council member seats, two of which are uncontested, one of which will be a new council member looking to be Linda Diaz. So our current council schedule has the city council certifying election results on December 17th and swearing in our new city council member that same date. Let's see, so that's a few updates around election. And then a few updates on some upcoming events that may be of interest. The council, this will be sort of repetitive for you, but we have two council meetings next week. We have a regular meeting on the 19th on Tuesday night, but we also have a special council meeting on Wednesday, the 20th, and that is specific to a discussion of homeless services, the ecosystem that we have around provision of those services and the resource deployment, the partnerships that we have, which of course includes, a lot of that includes the county, with things like Crisis Now and embedded clinicians and so forth, amongst other things that are in the landscape, like CalWorks. And there'll be a conversation really with council about also updates on the legal landscape, post grants pass, and our municipal code and adjustments that may be appropriate for our municipal code moving forward. So on November 20th, starting at 6 here in the community chambers, We have been in contact with several key county staff reps to have them make sure that they're invited and encouraged, welcome to attend, to be resources during that conversation. So we've been in contact with those folks and looking forward to that discussion. And let's see here, in a couple of other things coming up. One is on November 22nd, we are going to be doing an unveiling of the art installation in honor of Kareem Abu Najim in Sycamore Park. And so that art piece has been in the works for a while with multiple funding sources that have been very instrumental in helping to make that happen. And so that unveiling will happen at Sycamore Park on the 22nd of this month at 4 p.m. In the event that there is inclement weather, we have lined up Willet NPR for in case it's raining. So it'll go on either way. So really looking forward to that celebration. It's an absolutely beautiful art piece. So looking forward to seeing that and having that be a point of healing and reflection for the community and for the family. And then last quick announcement is we have our annual candlelight parade and tree lighting coming up on December 5th. So please come out and join. Encourage folks to come out. 6 o'clock, the parade launches from the co-op parking lot. So we encourage people to gather a little bit before then. Get there around 5:45 so that everyone's ready to go. And then the tree lighting is right around at 6:30. So just again, looking forward to that positive event as well. So that's my announcements for today. Thanks.
Thank you. And so now we're on to Board of Supervisor Council communications. Any communications? No? Okay. Yep, Mike gave all of our communications. Thank you. Okay.
Couple District 4, I'm Sheila, I'm Deputy Supervisor Provenza and Supervisor-elect. 2 things from District 4, back to Road 32A, the frontage road near the causeway. It's come to our attention that an informal skate park is expanding and being a little much these days, so we are working with county staff. It is functionally supposed to be a drainage structure, and it now has many items on it so that it can no longer function as a drainage thing. So we will be putting some notices out so that if there's anybody that it's their materials that are out there, they can remove them before the rainy season. So just if you hear about that, we are aware of it and we're going to be putting the notice out. Secondly, we're having a swearing in also. There are actually 4 supervisors, 3 who were re-elected and myself coming in on January 6th. So if you can remember that day, you are welcome to come over to our swearing in Woodland.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have upcoming meeting dates. January 8th, March 12th, and May 14th are our next meeting dates. And then that brings us to adjournment. Look at that. All right. Thank you, everyone.